Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mark and Smark Connection podcast. I am your host, the Smark, Jesse Disbro. With me, as always, is Matt Cooper, the Mark.
Hello, everybody.
All right, that was a little bit more. Yeah, okay. I was about to say.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I was going to say I was a little bit more than you normally give us, so I was happy about it.
Okay, next time I'll just choke and die.
You'll yeah. So I know. I mean, Shakespeare would be fine. I could deal with that.
Shakespeare.
A soliloquy.
7 years ago.
That's
Romeo. Wherefore art thou?
A different bearded bard.
5 points to Gryffindor for that one, Jesse.
Anyway, so now that we're talking about beards and bards and business, well, I guess we'll have to talk about the Symphony of Destruction match then. But we're going to talk about our normal business here. We're going to do our marking out segment. We're going to do the Smarks remarks, talking about what the big things were that happened this week. We're going to talk about TakeOver Portland, because it was the best thing that happened in wrestling in the last week or so. And we're going to go ahead and talk a wee bit about some other things that popped up, mostly involving women. We're going to double down on what we talked about last week. Then we're going to close out the show with our normal finisher. We'll have our hot tag, hot take, and we'll have a guest hot take popped in there. And we'll also then have our finisher, and we'll roll on home. So, Matt, why don't you take us away with the marking out?
Okay, so the first segment of the show is called Marking Out. It's where I, the Mark, choose one thing that happened in all of wrestling during the week, and I mark out about it. This week, I'm marking out about something that happened last week, which was NXT TakeOver Portland, a standalone pay-per-view for the NXT brand. It was not actually associated with another, quote-unquote main brand WWE event. I don't know if it's the first time that's happened, but it's the first time I remember it happening. And it was a great show. I enjoyed it. The Keith Lee match is probably the one I paid the most attention to. Wonderful. Great wrestling all around. Nice, tight show. Only quibble I had with it was, especially in the last match, they were kicking out of a lot of finishers.
So I think it was the first time since they've left Full Sail and been doing these shows out on the road that it hasn't been attached to a different one. And that's a main NXT brand, not UK, because the UK ones have been on their own for a while. So I think that's the case there. And yeah, it was a great show. I didn't get to watch all of it, but I watched most of it. And, it kicked off with a bang. Watching two, heavyweights fly around like cruiserweights.
Oh, God, yeah. Especially Keith Lee doing a Hurricane Rana.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a moment where I think he popped up Mr. Oh, forgive me.
Dominic Dijakovic?
Dijakovic, thank you. I have to hear his name in my mind the way that Mauro Ranallo says it. So yes. Dominic Dijakovic. He flipped him up and Dominic landed on his feet, and then they went to flip Keith Lee, and I think Keith Lee was supposed to land on his feet too, but instead he kind of landed and took a knee. But still, it's a big fucking man. I was impressed.
Yeah,
so.
And then the flip over the ropes onto Keith Lee on the chair was spot of the night by most of Twitter, as I saw. There was some good bits in that, and
I really like how they're developing Keith Lee. I like this thing he does where he points at himself with a thumb, right? And what is the nickname they have for him nowadays?
Limitless Keith Lee.
Limitless. Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's gonna be real nice watching him become basically the brand. So we had some business that happened there on that show that we'll settle back in for after I give you what happened on the rest of wrestling this week.
I gotta admit, I was kind of a black hole for me this week. I have no idea what happened anywhere.
Yeah, well, there's wrestling, and it happened. I've kind of been working different shifts recently, so I haven't been able to get on the tweeter to turn our tweeter on for WWE events, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that would, if you're not paying attention, if you can't see those on our Twitter account at Mark and Smark, then obviously you can't get your wrestling news from anywhere. So I can understand why you're in the dark.
Yes. So you said AEW.
Yeah, AEW beat NXT for the 8th week in a row.
Okay.
And it was well deserved. It was a pretty good looking card, actually. So Cody was in a steel cage match that he had to win to get his match against MJF at Revolution, which is going to be February 29th.
Part of Cody Rhodes's
trials and tribulations.
His Herculean deeds.
Yes.
His labors, as they call them.
Yes.
Okay.
He had to. This was the final thing in the line. So we're gonna get the go home show for AEW next week. I don't know what exactly WWE has built up to kind of put against the go home show. All I've seen so far is that Tommaso Ciampa is going to face Austin Theory, and that should actually be a really good match. It won't be takeover quality because Austin Theory's not yet in the main event picture, but that should be a good match. But also we got some good Jon Moxley action, and
is he still wearing that eye patch?
I believe so. If I were him, I wouldn't give it up.
It does look rather fetching on him, doesn't it?
Never gonna give that up. Never gonna let it down.
Oh, must we?
I must. Over and over again. So, yeah, and then there was the tag team titles were on the line again. As Hangman Page and Kenny Omega ended up fighting off the Lucha Bros. And
cool.
there's going to be an all elite tag team championship match at Revolution because the Young Bucks won a tag team Royal Rumble, so they'll face off there at Revolution. So we might talk a little bit about Revolution, while it's coming up.
Is this something you can watch on Bleacher Report?
Yes, on that Bleacher Report Live, and I believe Fight TV is still hosting them. If you do miss them, you can catch them like afterwards on Fight TV for sure. And I think you can watch reruns on Bleacher Report too.
Cool.
Yeah, not so bad. So I'll give you what the card is so far. Moxley did get into a scuffle with Jericho, who he's going to face for the top titles there. And then the only other match right now that they have booked is Dustin Rhodes will be taking on Jake Hager.
Okay.
So that's gonna be happening. They'll probably find a women's match, whether we'll get Nyla Rose defending like immediately, or whether we have some sort of other like business that turns into like a wrestling match. Maybe we have something with the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny. Maybe something picks up with the Dark Order. We'll just have to see how that all turns out for the final bit. So this will be probably one of their biggest matches that they've had since the big opener will be Jericho versus Moxley for the AEW Championship. So that's something worth paying attention to for sure.
Okay.
And I think the last time these guys tussled was that Ambrose Asylum match, which saw Jericho take 100,000 thumbtacks to his back if you asked him about it.
I will next time I see Jericho at the grocery store.
Sure. So that's AEW. I think AEW, I don't know, it might have even been the best show this week.
Well, it did beat NXT in the ratings.
It did beat NXT in the ratings, but we're talking about like SmackDown. SmackDown had the Goldberg Bray Wyatt stare down. Goldberg
was Bray Wyatt or Bray Wyatt the Fiend?
It was the Fiend Bray Wyatt, and Goldberg was able to hit him with a big nasty looking spear. The Fiend got up, looked at him, and then everything went dark and he disappeared. So the
Well, I mean,
Goldberg looks a little bit better in this. The Fiend doesn't look terrible.
I don't think that Bill Goldberg, the person, is willing to totally allow himself to be squashed to completely like put over the Fiend.
I believe that this match is going to be Goldberg hitting an early spear and early jackhammer, and then the Fiend kicking out, and then just quickly dispatching Goldberg. That's what I think the match is going to be.
Well, that's what it ought to be, because all people really want to see from Goldberg is his 30-minute entrance, spear, jackhammer, and then the rest of it you can just, you can go to the bathroom, because I mean, I understand that he's not a particularly strong in-ring performer in other aspects. Which it's interesting, because that sort of exemplifies the whole character above ability, quote unquote, or work rate is a word that I've heard people throwing around.
Yeah.
I mean, people fucking love Goldberg, but the dude only comes out and does two things. That's fine, Yeah. So
and it worked for him, and it will continue to work for him. So that's Super Showdown, which will be Thursday, February 27th. I might actually tweet that, because that's an event that I can actually watch.
Okay.
And I'm kind of interested in the show. There's the New Day versus the Miz and Morrison that we talked about.
You've told me that the card looks good to you, like decent.
Yeah, and they added Seth Rollins and oh god, Buddy Murphy, who I guess is now known as Murphy.
Really? They took his first name? Murphy?
Yeah.
Murphy? That sounds like a fucking detective who just,
Come on,
wants to go home,
Yeah. I'm just
like, Murph, put that coffee down.
I'm just going to think of Murphy Brown, I think, all this time.
Oh, even better.
Candace?
The shoulder pad.
Is that you?
You've shown to me now that you know far more about Murphy Brown than I do.
No, that's there was a commercial where the actress Candace Bergen was just like going through a fast food drive-through, and the people on the other side was like, "What, Candace? Is that you?" They were incredulous that it was Murphy Brown coming through there.
Did she have them shoulder pads?
I don't know. I think this might have been post shoulder pad era.
Okay, because I imagine Murphy Brown is having, like, say an armor shoulder pads. The way she walks out of Dragon Ball Z. So,
but they're that tag team, the Raw tag team champions, will actually be defending against the Street Profits.
Okay,
so that's another cool setup.
Now I've got my wires crossed, and I thought there was going to be a wrestling match with Murphy Brown.
No. And that Street Profits business happened this week on Raw. They saved Kevin Owens from being murdered by the Monday Night Messiah. So,
which is Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins, correct. Yep. So that gives them the championship match. So it probably will be disappointing, but everything on the card is interesting, including hopefully the final match between King Corbin and Roman Reigns. We can only cross our fingers and hope.
King Corbin and Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
What a fresh match. I'm not going to bitch about that. No, it's a Saudi show that I don't care about.
Right, so. And they haven't had it live for them, so why not? Are the big things that I did mention the Symphony of Destruction match, which humorously, the last time this happened was between Braun Strowman and Elias. In this one, they teamed up to defeat Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro.
Okay.
Including a running power slam on a piano as the finisher.
Wait a minute. When you say Symphony of Destruction, do you mean there's instruments?
Yes, correct.
God.
There is only there it's regular rules, but some weapons are allowed, and all the weapons are instruments. So there was a
flute would really hurt, dude.
A double suplex. Cesaro and Nakamura did the double suplex on Braun Strowman through a stand-up bass.
Well, I mean,
you remember when he was going to El Kabong?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Elias.
What kind of
with that.
piano was it? Was it like a baby grand?
I don't know.
A
I didn't really look
Steinway?
at the pictures or anything like that, but it said, running power
A
slam
Yamaha?
atop a piano. I don't know if it was a piano, a keyboard, a mouse. I'm not sure.
It always blows my mind that Yamaha makes motorcycles and pianos.
Yeah, well, electronics,
what-
man. They're on board.
Oh, okay. Yamaha pianos.
I
These
guess,
ooh.
like, some of the most important things, at least to me, we're going to talk a little bit about the number one contender for the women's match when we talk a little bit more about, where the women are in WWE a little bit later. But the Bella Twins, speaking of women, were announced as the latest Hall of Fame inductees.
Makes sense.
So Nikki and Brie will be going in together as their iconic team. They were on A Moment of Bliss with Alexa Bliss. So
Are they gonna have matching baby bumps by that time?
Maybe. It might
That's
be.
real. That's real coordination with your sister right
Mhm.
there.
You know what? And if
Okay.
they come out with gear, because their gear always used to say like Bella 1, Bella 2.
That's funny.
So if they come out with gear with like Bella's 4 and 5,
That'd be great.
yeah, but it's like right on their
That's
baby
like-
bump. That would be fantastic.
That's like thing number 1, thing number 2, or
Mhm.
whatever from Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and
Good for
even
them.
though Nikki Bella ended up kind of surpassing her sister in terms of in-ring accolades, she still proudly wore Bella 2.
Very good.
So good on her. And the most important thing, of course, that came out of SmackDown is that Tucker went and talked down Mandy Rose, who tried to defend herself a little bit, but then was perplexed by the fact that she apparently had sent a text to Otis saying that she would be late, even though the cameras were there the whole time. So, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose stood there going, "Oh, well, I don't know. That's weird. I don't know why that happened. That's weird."
No, it was clearly Dolph Ziggler hacking Mandy's. I don't know.
See, or the long-awaited Sonya Deville turn on her friend.
Did they? Did somebody go and talk Otis down off the bridge?
No. He was inconsolable and did not leave his hotel room.
Jesus Christ.
That
Okay.
is
Poor
what
fucking
Tucker said.
Otis.
Yes. Yes. Seriously.
How could you do this to this big man with his big soft
I
feelings?
know. That's pretty much what Tucker was all talking about. He was like, "Oh,
I'm happy to see Tucker standing up for Otis.
Mhm.
Giving Tucker something to do.
yeah."
Can you imagine if
and
you?
he acquitted himself well in that segment too. He was
Yeah.
very passionate. He sounded good. It was a good bit.
So how did he approach Mandy Rose? Did he go up to her and say, "You harlot"?
No,
Oh,
he just said,
okay.
"Listen, no, I gotta get this off my chest. I gotta say it. So let me just say it." And he delivered it, because Mandy was gonna chat at him, but no, he said, "No, let me just get this off my chest. He's
like,
one of the
"Hey,
most
Tucker,
loving
where-"
people I know, etc., etc."
And I have not seen any pictures on Instagram of Otis staring lovingly at food.
I know,
This wrong must be righted. The man must be made whole again.
I know.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So great. Stuff happened. What about Raw? I didn't hear much about Raw.
No, there wasn't much about Raw. The big thing that was supposed to happen on Raw was Randy Orton versus Matt Hardy, but
yeah, no, I saw him
yeah.
like on a gurney with a neck brace, and there was a
Mhm.
kid in the audience crying, and
It never happened because Randy Orton attacked Matt Hardy in a similar way.
I saw he did one of those chair shots, but
Mhm.
instead they were on the stairs. Those chair shots, which by the way, I mean, you could tell he's like angling it so he's hitting like the steel cage or the steel chairs or the steel stairs or whatever.
Mhm.
Makes very loud noise, but doesn't actually hit Matt Hardy. So
Yeah.
there were people. Oh no, this was an unrelated event. Never mind.
Yeah. That's what it is. And apparently Eric Rowan's push is over.
Yeah. Did he lose the thing in the cage or what?
No, but he lost to Aleister Black.
Okay. Did he bring the thing in the
I
cage?
don't know. Maybe it did. It's not in. It's not in the write up.
I don't think anybody gave a shit about the thing in the cage, and so we're just gonna forget about it.
Yeah. That's it. I can't wait for it to become a tiny gobbledygooker. That's really all I want out
Please
of my
no.
life now. I don't want it to be anything else.
It's probably a tiny Doink the Clown.
No, no, no. That would be weird.
Oh no, it's not like the whole angle wasn't. I was gonna say weird, but it was just kind of dumb. I mean, what could you possibly have in that cage that terrifies Mojo Rawley to the extent that it did? There's no way to live up to that. So
No, and speaking of Mojo Rawley, he once again was in a actual wrestling match for the 24/7 championship.
okay, so we're done with the Scooby Doo chases backstage, I guess.
Not
Huh?
entirely. Riddick Moss did have to fend off an attack at the Funko Pop Factory or something along those. Yeah, the Funko Pop Factory.
Oh God, not the Funko Pop Factory.
Yes, R-Truth tried to take the belt from him there.
You'll destroy like $5 worth of merchandise if you have a fight in there.
Oh no! But instead, Riddick Moss ended up escaping with the title after that match. It was R-Truth, Riddick Moss, and Mojo Rawley all together in that match.
I said all this,
so
and
far.
I'm looking at my bookshelf, and I count 3 Funko Pop figures up there.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, no, 4 if you count the miniature one, 5 if you count the Ecto One Funko Pop, which is among 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Ecto Ones that I have up there. Oh shit!
And
but yeah, just as an aside, if I get a Funko Pop, I take it out of the fucking box. The end.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that was cleared up. We can move on with our lives now.
We can stop talking about Funko Pop.
MVP, who said he had his final match when he came back and wrestled.
Does he have a Funko Pop figure?
I don't know.
MVP?
Probably not. I think he wrestled before the Funko Pop craze. Drew McIntyre does, and that's who murdered MVP this week. MVP had a talk show last week, and he wanted to become the advocate for Drew McIntyre.
Mm-hmm.
And then Drew McIntyre said, I don't need an advocate, and then he kicked him in the face. Claymore kick. So Paul Heyman decided to ask, MVP if they wanted to do some sort of joint advocacy. But MVP decided he wanted to get some revenge in a match against Drew McIntyre. But even though he had said that his last match had already happened, I guess he's still kind of true because he didn't really do anything in this match. He just got kicked in the face by Drew McIntyre, and Drew McIntyre won. Woo!
As far as I can tell, MVP does not have a Funko Pop figure.
Okay, good. Thank you for doing the research.
I looked at it while you were saying all that other stuff.
Yeah, well, tis what tis. Anyway, we're going to... We had a match with Bobby Lashley and Angel Garza versus Rusev versus Humberto Carrillo, and their shit just keeps going on, all of them together. Hooray, forever. Okay.
Whatever.
Kairi Sane, who got married this week, so congrats to Kairi Sane.
Oh, congratulations. Did she marry Asuka?
Not that I know of. No, she's been married. She's been fianced. I don't know what the
fianced.
I don't know what the phrase. I guess engaged. For a while and married her fiance.
That was a good one though. I like that. She's been fianced.
It feels like there should be a word that comes from that.
Engaged.
Yeah, but
she's engaged.
Yeah.
I don't mean she's engaged in money laundering. Mm-hmm. I meant engaged.
Right. Sure.
Whatever. Okay, well that means Kairi Sane's off the market, boys.
Yeah, I know. So no pirate princess. So you can be the pirate prince. No, you can't do that anymore.
Nope. Sorry, you're gonna have to scrub that from your daydreams.
But she did manage to earn a win, so congrats on that too.
I like Kairi Sane. I'm always happy when she wins. if they don't give her some special pirate shit to do at WrestleMania, I'm gonna turn the whole show off. Which I'll have to watch until the end until I know.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. Okay. So,
And then,
anyway.
that was basically it. Ricochet won a match against Carl Anderson for reasons, because they have to put him over before he faces Brock Lesnar. And that's it.
Okay.
That was all that happened on Raw. Like, we had the Seth Rollins came out, and he is really, like, living this Monday Night Messiah gimmick. He started giving a sermon. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Owens and the Viking Raiders came out, crashed it, and they had a match later. And like I said, the Weekend Update guys came and.
Oh, if it makes you feel any better, Kairi Sane also does not have a Funko Pop figure.
Ah, good. I'm glad. There's no Monday Night Messiah Funko Pop figure either.
Well, they'll get around to it. But yeah, no, the Kairi Funko Pop figure is a character from Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
Which I don't want to get into that. So.
Yeah, we'll stay off on that one for a minute.
And you know that you've made it if you got a Funko Pop figure.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to make it too far either, because they got a million of those things. Like, they probably have a Funko Pop figure of me out there somewhere. Can you imagine that?
You can order one.
Oh God.
That's a true thing. You can do that.
Really? Can you choose like accessories and stuff? Like
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, you just Google that like 5 seconds and you'll have it there. You can also order a blank one too if you want it.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Mm-hmm. They're a little creepifying looking. You know who doesn't have a blank one? That's Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlotte Flair, as we all know, if we watched the Takeover Portland show,
mm-hmm.
attacked Rhea Ripley and accepted the challenge to face her at WrestleMania. So she's cashing in her Royal Rumble. Yeah, on an NXT champion. It's very exciting.
I have to congratulate you for seeing this and seeing the freshness that it could bring, and then.
Well, thank you. I was not 100% because I did think that it would be easier to book with the men, but it turned out to be easier to book with the women.
Yeah, and Vince McMahon was listening to our podcast, mm-hmm. and evidently, or in this case, I guess it would be Triple H. I don't know.
Yes, probably one of them. Since it's Charlotte, it could be Vince McMahon. Who knows? We'll find out. Maybe they're both listening now. Maybe they've both come around on it. But yeah, we're gonna have that match at WrestleMania. And we're going to have Shayna Baszler face whoever wins the Women's Elimination Chamber match at WrestleMania.
Cool.
And we're going to have our first Women's Championship match in Saudi Arabia when Bayley takes on Naomi.
Holy shit.
Yeah. That's a holy shit moment for sure. I'm really interested to see if Naomi's going to do full-on neon glow dance entrance as well. Like, I don't know whether they're ready to push those boundaries that far, and it'll be very interesting to see because maybe they let them do that. And I'm gonna have to continue to commend WWE for forcing the issue and pushing these boundaries that detractors of this agreement can see as some superficial kind of business, but if it is doing work like that and putting women at a higher level in that society, then by all means it's worth it.
Yeah, there's well, a lot of the times you can't have a conversation about the Saudi events without somebody coming in and screaming blood money and pointing out the death of I've forgotten his name. His last name was Khashoggi, the journalist.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to set that aside. Some people can't. That's fine.
Yep, and it's what it's going to be. I think we've cooled off from that particular situation, and
mm-hmm.
even though that particular prince was instrumental, some would say, in both events, both the WWE coming and potentially in the more sordid details there. But if good comes out of this, if fans enjoy the show, if there's if they continue to push a higher acceptance of women in athletics and women in entertainment, I think as long as good continues to come out of these shows, they'll be worthwhile, and we should accept them.
Okay.
That's where I stand on that. But speaking of a good show, how much did you like NXT TakeOver Portland? You talked a little bit about it. How much did you like not just the matches, but the way the storylines played out through the
Everything.
whole show?
It seemed good rather. The storylines and the matches all flowed pretty well. It didn't feel like they were just doing spots for the sake of doing spots. Everything felt like it had a reason and motivation, stuff like that. So I was happy with it.
Yeah, and when you have those like false finishes, they really only work when you do them as part of a story. So when Dominic Dijakovic kicks out of, the Spirit Bomb once, you go, oh crap, these guys who have been wrestling each other, several times, in fact, they're so even that even this finisher can't put him away. So you had to hit him with it again. And then you have, the Gargano escape being rolled around out of a couple of times there. Speaking of, I think that was pretty well put together too, because you give that tight match for, basically everything that Gargano has left.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't have any titles anymore. All he's got is Johnny Wrestling. And then he loses. It feeds into the sudden but inevitable betrayal at the end of the match, at the end of the show. Which is basically the only thing he has left in NXT. Which is his on-again, off-again rivalry with Tommaso Ciampa.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's so good, Matt has nothing else to say about it.
No, you summed it up pretty well. Yeah, and of course we're sticking Johnny Wrestling and Tommaso Ciampa back together again, which is fine. We've seen it before, but we haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, so. And we haven't seen Ciampa as the babyface and Gargano as the heel.
Yeah,
which is essentially the dynamics right now. So that was good. It was a little weird having the Tegan Nox Dakota Kai match rivalry end the way it did. You kind of wanted to see the babyface get, their justice, but whatever. Well, that storyline's moving forward. We'll see where that goes.
Yep.
So, do you have anything else to add for our listeners at home?
I do not. I'm just kind of twiddling my thumbs and waiting for Elimination Chamber Fastlane and WrestleMania at this point.
Yeah, and those are both still super far away. It's kind of weird how that's all worked out. It's going to be like, I think, what is it, beginning of March, end of March?
I think that we have a while to wait, and then everything is going to happen all at once.
Yeah, well, we're going to have the Saudi show is going to basically be up against AEW Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Super Showdown will be on Thursday, and then the following Saturday will be Revolution. They like doing their shows on Saturday nights, which is fine by me.
To be honest, I prefer that, because if you're going to stay up late watching a show, it's nice to not, have to go to bed and get up and go to work. So...
Yeah. But, Elimination Chamber, it'll be March 8th. So that'll be right before. And then... We might not, you know what? It looks like they are taking the fast lane past fast lane this year.
I didn't hear any mention of it. So
there's no fast lane this year.
That's fine.
We're going right to WrestleMania.
I felt like Fastlane was more of a speed bump than an actual Fastlane, because you have Elimination Chamber and then Fastlane and then WrestleMania.
It made some sense when the brands were split and your champion was going to be defending the title against somebody else. Like I would have put the non the person who didn't win the Royal Rumble in Elimination Chamber to determine a number one contender or whatever. But now that, people can challenge for any title, It doesn't make any more sense. So we'll see. So the Elimination Chamber match, they have already booked it. It will be for the number one contendership for WrestleMania 36 for the Raw Women. So that's Natalya, Liv Morgan, Shayna Baszler, Asuka, Ruby Riott, and Sarah Logan.
Wow.
So we'll get to so all the Riot Squad are in there. So we'll get to see how that dynamic works, and whether they kind of play to some of that story in the next week or two. But it is a very interesting mix, and it's 99% likely that Shayna Baszler is going to win.
Yeah. Let's just see if she takes a chunk out of somebody.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes there. But yeah, that's it. NXT will have a show the night before. Again, so they'll have NXT TakeOver Tampa Bay. It very unlikely that the women's title will be defended there if it's going to be defended at WrestleMania. So it'll be interesting to see how many of the titles are defended here, whether all the men's titles get defended here, whether some of them get defended here, and some get pushed over to, the actual main card. Like maybe Adam Cole gets a match on the actual WrestleMania main card.
And just as an aside, if the women's title is on the line at WrestleMania, the NXT title, that would have, I feel like, sort of fast-tracked Rhea Ripley from 0 to WrestleMania title match.
Yeah, so. And I think it's worth it. She's kind of fast-tracked her entire career because she's only 23.
As everybody likes to point out.
Yeah, so, I mean, she was the inaugural UK Women's Champion. She then, was the conquering hero, finally ending the Shayna Baszler reign in NXT, and now gets to try to beat Charlotte at WrestleMania.
Man, if you got it, you got it. So,
I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go closer. Because there's also this little thing in the back of my head trying to say, what was Charlotte's WrestleMania moment? It must have been winning the newly revealed Women's Championship. So does she need a different WrestleMania moment? Or can we actually watch Rhea Ripley win?
Let's have a conversation about this later, because I've got beef with the concept of WrestleMania moment.
Yeah.
So,
well, we'll put a pin in that. So those of you listening, just keep an ear out over the next few weeks as we go down the road to WrestleMania. And with that in mind, I think it's time that we put together a tag team match and head into the hot take portion of our match. So
one of my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah. So in this,
how does this work?
So this works as thus. I will give you how it works, and then I will give you an example of it using the Connections hot take that he sent to us in our planning board. And then we'll see where it goes. So generally, one of us comes
Joe
up...
sent a hot take.
Yeah, he did. He sent some information to us that
I bet you $1 it's about the XFL.
No, it's not. So
God damn it.
I'll pick up your $1. Yep, whenever. It's on record now. It's here on record that you owe me $1.
Shit.
So what happens is we talk a little bit about something that has to do with wrestling or wrestlers. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an in-ring match. It doesn't even really have to be about something that happened with wrestlers in a wrestling capacity. It could be, whatever the new movie coming out with a wrestler in it is, or it could be, somebody who has, retired or something like that, who is big in the business. Or in this case, for Joe's hot take, where he would say that and jump in, and included Titus O'Neil, who we haven't seen on, in a wrestling match for a while. But he was down at Mixer's LFG show. So Mixer is the streaming property for Microsoft. That's the one that they own. And it's nice to see Titus O'Neil out there. Apparently, all he's doing is the press tours, but he was out there hanging out with the people there. It's cool. It's kind of like a talk show about, video games and stuff like that they stream live. So it was cool to see some more WWE stars get out there. The intersection between WWE stars and gaming has just grown exponentially over the past few years even. So to see that continue with someone like Titus O'Neil, who isn't a confessed gamer, to see kind of like something like that pop up and be like a real spot for someone who's not 100% gamer to step in and actually have a talk show spot. It was kind of cool to see.
And so, hot take. Now it's my turn. I play D&D occasionally, Dungeons and Dragons. It's the new hotness, even though it's been around forever. So, typically I've been going about creating characters that are sort of hobbled, right? Like, a lot of classes tend to be done better by different races. So, for example, if you had an orc, that would make a good barbarian. But I've been taking the orc and making him like a wizard. So it's been fun. My next character is going to be a gnome barbarian. I can't wait. But a friend of mine sent me he 3D prints minis for us, and he paints them. And he found a human wrestler bard 3D printing mini thing or whatever. If you look at it, it is clearly Macho Man Randy Savage, but it's got the tassels and everything. It's great. So and it's got a little championship belt.
Hot take! Get out of there! You can't have your championship belt. Get it out of here. We haven't won yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop in here. I gave a little bit. I looked around and I was looking at some things, and New York Toy Fair was recently something that happened, and all of the new WWE figures came out, and I was like, oh, cool. So there's gonna be, first time in line Bianca Belair, very cool. There's some cool stuff, awesome. And then I popped hard. I lost it. You want to know why? Otis and Tucker are getting their first figures, and that made me pop a little bit. But the thing that made me pop the most was that Otis and Tucker will be packaged with the Yolo County Tag Team Championships. Those were the cardboard belts that some of the jobbers brought to defend on, I think it was SmackDown at the time. And the Heavy Machinery beat them, won the Yolo County Tag Team Championships, and offered to have a unification match with the SmackDown Championships at the time. I thought it was a hilarious little bit and a great joke. So I might just have to buy. Those guys are great, and those are the first time that they'll be made into figures. But I might just have to buy them just for the Yolo County Championships.
That's good to hear. I'd forgotten what the Yolo County Championships were for a moment, and I thought maybe you were referencing Southpaw Wrestling.
No.
Which, by the way, this is a leap year. So if Southpaw Wrestling wants to do their lethal leap year, they really need to do it now. All right. So now it's time for the last part of the show. We call this the finishing move. This is where I come up with a finishing move on the fly based upon what we talked about during the show. And Jesse, you're going to love this one. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. This one's called the Funko Pop. This one's called the Funko Pop. It's just a pop-up power bomb, and then you're done.
Yeah, and then you have to pose like you're a Funko Pop afterwards.
Well, it hits them so hard that their eyes turn into beady black little things, and
mm-hmm. And all the blood rushes to their head, making it 4 times the size of their body.
Yes. Can you imagine Mauro Ranallo shouting, "It's the Funko Pop! This is not a beloved action figure, but instead it's a deadly move.
That man has been unboxed."
That is why you're the Smark and I'm the Mark.
So with that, we're going to unbox some people, take the 1, 2, 3, hoist up our Yolo County Tag Team Championships as we go to the back, and enjoy us some Mark and Smark Connection podcast, which you can hear on markandsmark.podbean.com, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, Facebook.com/MarkandSmark. You can find us on social at Mark and Smark on Twitter and Instagram, and at the Daily Smark website. So, for Matt Cooper and the Connection Joe Lally, who got a little bit of info in this week, I am Jesse Disbro. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.